All right, good morning or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. My name is Andrew Long, and this is my self assessment sort of overview of what we've done in the class and how the standards for competency have been met throughout this course. Obviously, we're all well aware the competencies are design and development, delivery, assessment, and then emerging trends and professional responsibility. So, as far as design and development, the first standard is that the online teacher knows the primary concepts and structures of effective online instruction and is able to create learning experiences to enable student success. Well, as this entire course and the program in general is designed towards, I made sure to make a key effort to have the material structured in a way to be effective, and the concepts are pretty much the same as if it was in a brick and mortar classroom, right? The concept of history doesn't change whether you're providing it in front of a class that's physically in front of you or a virtual classroom, right? Those concepts are the same, but the concepts of SEL and the concepts of what constitutes effective online instruction, right? Things like organization, right? So the syllabus, having everything in one place, right? And really making sure you meet those standards for the students. The next standard is to use a range of technologies, both existing and emerging. And this course has really helped with that. Obviously, you go back to day one, introductions, right? Creating a flip grid, which outside of the courses here at Millersville for the master's program, I haven't really done, right? So to kind of push us onto this new technology, I've incorporated Flipgrid into my classroom personally, right? So not only can I use it in the virtual sense, but I've used it in our classroom throughout the school year, right? So this idea of using technology, both existing and emerging, the classroom, the learning management system, as Google Classroom as itself, that's an existing technology, right? But utilizing resources, utilizing new learning management systems, those are all important parts of design and development. The third part is the online teacher is cognizant of the diversity of student academic needs and incorporates accommodations into the online learning environment. So one of the main things I made sure to do is that any of these videos that I put on here, that you can turn on closed captioning, you can slow it down, things like that. Let me go back to the instructions. Right, so if we open this up, hit pause, you'll see you can turn closed captions on. Settings, as far as language, so if you have English as second language learners, English language learners, and they can change it to whatever language they're comfortable with, and so on and so forth. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can do for more accessibility, but as far as meeting the accommodations that this requires, I feel like having the videos have closed captioning is a very important step because we kind of operate from a vantage point of privilege in the sense that you don't really stop to think about it until you like realize just how much we take for granted, right? This year, especially for me personally, in my classroom, I had a student who is deaf, and so that process, always making sure there's closed captions. If there's a video I need to make and I need to go through and add closed captioning, I do, right? So just being aware of the students and their needs is very important. As far as delivery, encouraging active learning, application, interaction, participation, and collaboration. Collaboration is a big part. The whole point of my SEL lessons was to create a sense of community. Now, as I've stressed in my overview, the screencasts for Module 7, usually if you're in Google Classroom, you have a meet code right there, right? And you can meet. For my quote unquote students, they were my friends and colleagues who did that. I just gave them a code, but I put a heavy emphasis on working together, right? So I think it's day 3 that has the jigsaw. Let me go. Yes, jigsaw. So here what they did, open it up, is each student would get a different perspective of the Holocaust. I assign them which readings they have to do. You can see there's a whole bunch of different ones. And then they answer these questions and go around and talk to the people who have different perspectives. This teaches social skills, it teaches empathy, right? So a lot of this is based off of collaboration, but also social emotional learning. B, the teacher promotes student success through clear expectations, prompt responses, and regular feedback. Clear expectations, if you go back to the core syllabus, let me move this, core syllabus, the expectations are outlined, participation and behaviors outlined, the gradings outlined, right? The requirements, everything, all those things are explicitly stated right off the bat, right? Prompt responses, anytime a student messages me on Remind, Remind has been a godsend of sorts, because before that was an area I struggled with, but recently we've had Remind. You can even see from my classes on here, I have the Remind codes right there. So students, well, for better or for worse, can contact me whenever they need it, and I will promptly reply. Obviously, we all have exceptions. One time a student tried to ask me a question at 11:30 at night, and that's not, it's not an appropriate time. So it's important also to teach our students the responsibility of, office hours and managing time and not messaging at 11:30 at night. But that's neither here nor there. Part C, data delivery. The online teacher is cognizant of the diversity of student academic needs and incorporates accommodations into the online learning environment. That is a repeat, more or less, of design and development. So I'm going to skip that because it's already been addressed. As far as assessment, the online teacher demonstrates competencies in creating and implementing assessments in online learning environments in ways that ensure validity and reliability of the instruments and procedures. It's a lot of words. Now, for me, and for this unit specifically, we focused on perspectives and putting yourself in the shoes of others, right? So I wanted the students to take a step back and write from the perspective of something that they can't really relate to, because as SEL states, that is an important part of social relationships, having empathy, having sympathy, being able to put yourself in other shoes. That's a really big deal. So the whole point of this was to have the students create a letter, right? So we have an example here, the rubrics right there. I give them clear directions, tell them exactly what to do. And the previous 3 days have kind of been building up to this point. So B, kind of the same exact deal as what I just said for A, right? The thing that I definitely could focus more on is using data from assessments and other data sources to modify content and to guide student learning. With perspective, I found it's kind of harder to kind of judge a student's ability, because some perspectives, it's possible they lived through that experience, so they can put themselves in their shoes just by basing it off of their own activity. But if it's something that's so foreign to them, it can completely throw a student off. So one day they could be great with perspective, and the next day it can be challenging. So one of the challenges about this is to make sure we're constantly using assessment and data to modify content and to guide student learning. But again, I've got different forms of evaluation and different forms of assessment. So I tried to differentiate as much as I possibly could, but definitely moving forward, when it comes to what would I do in the future, I would add more. Okay. And the final one, emerging trends and professional responsibility. Again, this is something that we kind of take as an assumed thing, right? We naturally know how to respond to colleagues and send emails and send messages, but students don't, right? So I made sure to outline in the course syllabus, it kind of is reinforced by the expectations, right? And behavior. And students are expected to exhibit professionalism, right? That's how I talk to them, and that's how I tell them they need to talk to me. It hasn't worked out all that great. You still have students who just send their entire message in the subject line, which that's a work in progress. But someday we'll get there. But as far as myself, I definitely have operated with procedures and protocols exactly as it is supposed to, right? Professional, effective manner with colleagues, parents, and other members of the community. Sorry, my battery is running low. Make sure to plug that in as soon as I'm done with this. So, whether it's calling parents, it's kind of hard to showcase that in this specific unit because there really wasn't much dialogue. The only thing I can draw on really was our past discussions in this course, right? Discussion posts, looking at people's material, and especially the OERs, because a lot of resources I found was because you guys showed me exactly how to use it, right? It's kind of funny. I was explaining to my students today how two people can take the exact same thing and come to two completely different points with that same thing. So when I'd see a resource, I'd say, oh, I like that, but I'm not really sure how I'd use that. And then reading through the comments of our discussion posts, it's like, oh, or not discussion posts, the screencast, like, oh, that's how I could use that. That's an excellent resource to use. Okay, so colleagues in this sense would be my classmates, right? And finally, the teacher arranges media and content to help students and teachers transfer knowledge most effectively in the online environment, which that's going to be our learning management system through and through. Google Classroom is greatly effective at this. You can just throw up assignments, link some videos in there, directions, watch this, complete this, right? It's very organized. The media has been arranged in a manner that's easy for students to access because you can link it right there. You no longer have to worry about saying, oh, type this in, and a student makes a typo or they watch the wrong video. You can just go through and include exactly what it is you want the students to get, okay? So that has been my analysis of this course. Moving forward, like I said, I'd like to do is really assess more, right? And continue to expand on the idea of online learning because it's constantly shifting. We can constantly do more and more. The beauty of technology is that it's never really done, right? We always have new ways. 5 years ago, this idea of having breakout rooms in Google Classroom and being able to have meetings, synchronously on a computer, it couldn't happen, especially like in my district with the fact that students didn't have one-to-one technology. Now we do. So now it's all about finding new ways to incorporate that knowledge and to provide a better online learning experience for the students and for myself. It's been a pleasure taking this course with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you guys in other courses. Thank you.